Looking for the perfect hidden gem for your next night out? Welcome to Almost on the Lake, where the food is delicious. The service is top-notch. And the atmosphere feels like home. Family owned and locally loved. Come see why everyone is talking about Almost on the Lake.
Nestled in the heart of historic downtown Wilkesboro, the 1915 offers a wedding experience like no other. Once a federal courthouse and post office, the 1915 combines rich history with timeless charm. From intimate gatherings to full-day rentals, we provide the perfect backdrop for your most cherished moments. With indoor and outdoor options, bridal and groom suites, every detail is crafted just for you. Make your wedding unforgettable at the 1915, Wilkesboro's historic wedding venue, where your story begins.
Everybody knows Roselli's on 10th for the best authentic pizzas and pasta dishes in the region, but the real magic happens when you ask for the off-menu specials. That's when John steps out from behind the line, flashes that grin and says, "What are you in the mood for tonight? Have you tried one of our mouth-watering subs? And don't forget their famous desserts, because after a long week, you've earned it." Roselli's on 10th.
Roselli's is now open for lunch, Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Roselli's on 10th, come and taste the divine.
Closed captions for this episode of Life in Wilkes is brought to you by Deal Insurance Agency in Wilkesboro, an award-winning, experienced, family-owned and operated agency with service and coverage that goes above and beyond expectations. Join us on a captivating journey as we explore the charm, history, and vibrant culture of Wilkes County. Discover the hidden gems, inspiring stories, and remarkable people that make Wilkes a place worth knowing and celebrating. Join us now as we experience the unique essence of Life in Wilkes.
David Haynes, great to see you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Life in Wilkes studio.
It's good to be here.
It really is good to have you here, and it happened in an interesting way. I was at the Visitor Center, and you have an exhibit there of a series that I found fascinating, churches that were affected by Helene.
Yes.
And that's why you're in this seat now.
Right. What brought us together.
We're going to talk about that in a few minutes from now. But what I want to start off with is, let's just get to know you. Tell us about who you are and a little bit about your people, where you came from.
Well, I grew up in a Baptist Christian home. Mm-hmm. My dad is a retired now minister of music. He served in a number of churches in Georgia, but in the early 70s, we moved to Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. So I call Fayetteville home. Right. That's where I had my junior high school. And so they retired there after many years. Mom was a concert pianist. So we were very involved in the church. And that has a lot to do, that history of where I am with the churches that we'll talk about in a moment. But had a very, very favorable upbringing in the church. Like a lot of church people, you're there on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night.
Well, let's talk about that a bit, because a lot of people will say, they love their church, but I always think it's interesting. Well, why do you love your church? Because it's different for different people.
It is. In a way, being a church kid, so to speak, I was expected to be there a lot. Sure. But all of my friends went to church, and they were there with us. So it was there was more to life than just sitting in a pew on Sunday morning. We had a lot of activities, a lot of church retreats, youth groups, choirs. The church was a very active part of my life, and it still is today, even that now that I'm married.
Yes. Well, you shared. I think you shared some of the reasons that it was good because your friends were around you. Mm-hmm. But how would you imagine your life I know this is kind of a, thought-provoking question, but how would you imagine your life if you had not had that type of structure? And not only the church side in your faith, but having your friends with you.
I don't think about that much, I guess because it was it and they were always there. But now that you ask that question, it kind of humbles me to think that I was well protected in those early years. I stayed out a lot of trouble, and I had some of the best memories. And one thing that's interesting going on that I did not know about at the time, my wife, who I met in college, she also grew up in a Baptist church in a different city, and both of our youth choirs at that time, we went through all the same youth musicals together. We went to the same retreat conference centers. And so we both reflect back on that even today, being married 44 years now. Could we have been at the same location at some point in those youth days? And there's a good chance that we crossed paths in some way.
And didn't know it.
But having that background of myself and her, that's what really has brought us together and has really committed us to each other that the past really does count. It does really hold us together.
And your friends that you made, well, for both of you, since you have very similar backgrounds, that you had then, are some of those friends still in your life now?
A lot of them are. We all grew up in high school, and you lose touch, as you know, when you go away. Growing up in Fayetteville, in a military town, a lot of my classmates went right into the military afterwards. So I've not seen them in a long time. And Memorial Day of this year, 2026, will be our 50th class reunion. So a lot of them will come back for that. So I'm hoping we can reconnect on that way.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
It will be.
That'll be a great thing.
Yeah.
So over the years, so you and your wife have been together for quite some time now. Yeah. And does she play the piano?
She does.
She plays the piano.
And sings, yes.
And sings. Are you musically inclined as well?
Just sing.
You just, okay.
Yeah. My mom and dad, of course, sing.
Right.
I've got an older sister and a younger brother. They both sing. So there were 5 of us in the Haynes family. Our 3 spouses sing. So for many years in Fayetteville, we did quite a bit of performing.
I was getting ready to say, sounds like
we were called the Haynes family.
A Southern gospel group or something.
Well, it was primarily at Christmas time.
Okay.
We did a lot of Christmas songs, a lot of a cappella at a big church that my dad served in. And we did that for probably 25, 30 years.
Wow.
We loved it as a family.
A cappella to me is something that if someone's good with a cappella, there's nowhere to hide, right?
You're right.
It's like that's another level of performance that you have to entertain and move people by your voice.
You're right. You're right.
What did you learn from that?
Well, how special it is that all of us were able to share that together. A lot of times when we'd get together for holidays, we'd go in the living rooms, get behind the piano, and start singing.
Right.
And, of course, my dad being a minister of music, he had a lot of music selections. He'd do a lot of that behind the scenes to prepare for us. And that's one of the highlights of my life, is being able to be a part of that.
Yeah. It's good to have good memories, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So now we're getting a sense of who you are from the standpoint of your background. Mm-hmm. So you grew up in obviously a loving environment. You grew up with friends. You found your sweetheart that you'd probably bumped into and didn't even know. And now you're together. And you have kids?
No children.
Okay.
No.
All right. Never
were blessed to have children. Right. And that's okay. We've had a good life, enjoying other kids.
Right.
We've had 3 cats, so they've been our little boys.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I can relate to that. I think having cats and dogs are a pretty special part of our lives.
Well, two of the cats, which are brothers, they were very instrumental in beginning my painting journey.
Yes.
It all started there.
I know that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I saw that in your bio, and I saw the painting, and I was like, I wonder if he's going to bring the cats. I should have mentioned that.
Well, no, unfortunately, we lost both the cats a year ago,
right,
3 weeks apart.
Well,
after 14 years.
Well, we'll put a call into the Humane Society before you leave and see if we get you hooked up. Well, let's talk, David, about your career. You've got married. You've been singing all over the place, and you. How did you find the insurance industry? Because there's a big gap there, and you were doing that. How did you find that?
Well, January 28th, 1986 is the day the Challenger exploded.
Yes.
I remember exactly where I was when I saw it on the news, and at that moment, I decided to get in the life insurance industry.
Wow, what a moment.
That was defining.
And did you know about it before? Had you been thinking about life insurance then?
A little bit. My brother had been in it, and I knew he was enjoying it, and it was a good way of networking with people and helping and serving. So I had that probably in the back of my mind. But that day, that told me I need to change careers, and that's what I did.
Wow. What were you doing before that?
I was in the steel industry, working for a big manufacturing steel company.
Right. So that had you on the go, and a different type of solution you're providing there.
Right. Exactly.
You know, that explosion, that was for those who were alive and saw that on the news. That's incredible. I had the opportunity years ago to have a sit down with Captain O.A. Fish. He was actually a pilot on a commercial carrier, and they saw it. You know, from their plane, the passengers did. It was, and he shared that story, and it was just so heart wrenching.
Right. Yes, it was.
Yeah. All right. So we all have heavy things in our life, but that created a moment for you of reflection. You got in the insurance industry. Has that been good for you?
It has been. In the mid-2000s, I actually got out of the industry altogether, and my wife and I moved to Banner Elk.
Okay.
And I helped do the marketing and sales for a gated community called the Headwaters at Banner Elk had about 1,000 acres on the backside of Beech Mountain, and I helped John, my brother, develop that, and so that was our 3.5-year high country stint living in the mountains, and so.
What was that? Did you like being there?
We loved it. We loved it.
Did they have the Woolly Worm Festival at that time?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, they sure did.
Right.
Yes. Those are some great takeaways living up there. We love the people. We just fell in love with the weather and the climate, and you've got to have the right clothes in the winter to be dry and warm. Right. And a local restaurant owner said, "David, go to the mass store. That's where you need to buy the right clothes." And he was right, and we enjoyed it. We really enjoyed our time there.
Yeah, that's great. So you were there for 3.5 years?
Yeah, about 3.5 years.
Okay, and then what happened?
Well, we moved back to Greensboro.
Okay.
In a house that had never sold. And Amy said, "Are you going to get back in the insurance industry?" I said, I'd like to do something else. I had a good run with it. It was a great career. Sell carpet, widgets, services. Right. I don't know. So I called a good friend of mine. He and his wife own a home care company that provides care for seniors. Oh. And 3 hours later, he hired me as their sales and marketing director.
Wow.
So I did that for 6 years. So I got to understand the insurance industry even better, particularly from the long-term care insurance side, as far as how a long-term care policy does and is a very vital, important tool when families need care in the home or in a facility-type setting. So I understood a lot about the policies.
From working for this facility. Okay.
So that it all came together. I was able to help a lot of families understand their life insurance and long-term care policies because I'd sold them for over 30-some years. So about 6 years into that, I was out on our golf course walking, and now I did not audibly hear God speak to me, but I heard a calling to get back in the insurance industry and specialize in long-term care. And so that happened about 11 years ago now. So that's what I've done the last 11 years is specialize in long-term care insurance.
Is it better the second go around? I mean, getting back in, okay.
Because I'm more focused on one product.
Right.
And I understand it. We have been through a couple of long-term care experiences with our families. And I understand how the policies work and why they're so important, why people should have them. So it's a passion now of mine more than ever before.
You know, there have been a lot of family disputes between siblings who are taking care of mom or dad, and one spends a few more days a week than the other, and that can be messy.
Well, a long-term care event typically doesn't bring families together. It pulls them apart.
Wow.
And sometimes, unfortunately, the one that begins to wear the caregiver hat in the family is the adult daughter. Mm-hmm. She's usually the one that has to step up to the plate and arrange her life to become the caregiver for mom and or dad. Mm-hmm. And it can put a lot of stress on families that way. You're right.
Wow. Things we think about, you know.
But that's been a wonderful career. That's what I do full time, and then I paint on the side.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So now you're still in that business.
Right.
You still provide that service, but once again, you have a personal passion that came about now, and you've been painting for 6 years. Mm-hmm. So take us to that point. You're out selling a policy. Did you see a painting on the wall?
Right.
All right. What was it?
Yeah,
what was that moment that made you want to pick up a brush?
Well, because I'm in the senior providing industry,
Right.
I'm a member of a number of associations that provide services to seniors. And one of the associations I'm in is a nonprofit group called Creative Aging Network out of Greensboro. They provide art to seniors in the community. And one Saturday morning, they had a little pet portrait class for acrylic painting. They said, bring a picture of your pet. We'll have an artist here if you need help. It's $20. We'll have all the materials and supplies, and you can paint your pet. So my wife's birthday was coming up about 2 weeks later.
Right.
And I thought, I'm going to paint a picture of Pip and Squeak, our two cats. And I've never painted or drawn. So if it comes out good, I'll give it to her. If not, I'll just throw it in the trunk or whatever.
Right.
Well, by the end of that 3-hour period, the executive director who was there and the artist were very, very encouraging. They said, David, you've got a God-given talent. The way you've proportioned the eyes and ears and nose of these cats, most people just can't do this the first time around. And they encouraged me to go out and buy some paints, go to a local store and just experiment, paint trees, mountains, whatever.
Practice.
And I did, and I found a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Well, back to the cats. So you're getting this encouragement,
right?
Now, while you're painting, are you feeling like, hey, that's looking like my cats, or was it a struggle?
No, that's a great question. No. From the first stroke, I felt like I was all in, and I had fun. She said, one important thing I think of every painting, paint only what you see. And if you do that, you'll have a good proportion of your paintings. And that's a true lesson that I learned out of that. So, no, I enjoyed it. And
was it therapeutic?
Oh, it was. I mean, all of a sudden 3 hours was over. And, of course, I had to make up a story because Amy thought I was hiking at Hanging Rock that morning when I was actually painting. So I came in and gave her some type of funny story. And I was going to wait and give it to her 3 weeks later for her birthday, but I didn't. I gave it to her within a couple of hours. I was so proud of what I did. So that was my first painting.
And you felt guilty for lying about the hiking trip.
Right. So I'd take her out to dinner or whatever. But she thought that was a wonderful story, and it's been a wonderful journey since. And, of course, COVID, when the pandemic hit in late March, that's when I really put the painting in full steam because she and I both work from home. A lot of what I do can be done on the internet, online. And, of course, I did a lot of Skype and Zoom calls with a lot of prospects and clients and could do all my applications. So for almost 7-8 months, in 2020, every day I was painting and watching instructional YouTube videos and doing my insurance. I've watched every Bob Ross
I was getting ready to say.
all the happy little trees.
Right.
I've seen every one.
Right.
And I will tell you, I think that's what really, really turned the page for me. And then I have found a few other painters around the world that I follow.
But Bob Ross, he gets in your head, doesn't he?
He does.
I've talked to other artists who have similar stories, not industry or background,
Right.
but taking a class and then doing the online Bob Ross, and it's very similar. It gets in their head, and they're always looking at the happy little trees when they're walking in the park or whatever,
Right.
and then they go paint them.
Well, Bob, coming from a Christian faith,
Right.
he was always calming. He was always encouraging. And he encouraged the audience, you can do it. Don't give up. And so I listening to that every single day, I believed him. And then, I started posting a few paintings on my Facebook page
Right.
and getting friends comment. And
What were they saying?
oh, I didn't know you could paint, and are you selling these? And,
Right.
and
That was the big question,
Are
right?
you selling it?
Right.
Well, and then I got a lot of commission pieces.
How long had you been painting before you got your first commission?
About 8-9 months, I guess,
Okay.
when someone they had a cabin, a client of mine said, "Could you paint this?" And I'd never painted a building or structure before. That was very challenging. But little did I know that would come into play on a lot of the churches that I'm painting now. But I finally got a website and started getting activity there, and just a lot of friends were real encouraging, saying, where did this come from? Because I'd never painted or drawn, just all of a sudden. But, Carl, one thing I found in the pandemic, and this, a lot of people discovered new hobbies.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of those that had hobbies prior, that maybe put the guitar in the closet for 20 years, they got it back out during the pandemic and resurrected a new life. And fortunately, I found painting right before that time, and it gave me a purpose.
It just worked out that
It did.
when you had less time in sales, you
Yes.
had this thing that you really wanted to do.
I did.
Yeah. So
I did.
So the painting feeds your soul, I guess.
It did. And living in the mountains previously, I love the architecture of the churches, a lot of the Linville River rock and brick and stone that these churches were made from. And there's a lot of history, a lot of architectural designs that I really liked. One particularly was the All Souls Episcopal in Linville, All Saints Episcopal, I believe.
Right.
And I just fell in love with that design. And so I painted that.
Was that your first one?
It wasn't one of my first, but it was one of my most memorable, because I got a call from a good friend of mine who's legally blind in Greensboro. I was good friends with her husband, and he was always describing a lot to her visually so she could get an idea of what certain things look like. And he was always describing my paintings that I had posted on Facebook. So she called me one night and said, I'd like David Haynes to paint me a church. Well, we laughed about that and hung up. And, that I kept thinking about that for a few days. And Christmas was coming up. And I said, I'm going to paint her this church in Linville. And I'm going to use materials as part of the painting. So I used wire, toothpicks, kitty litter for the walkway, used some bark, some straw.
So she could feel it.
She could feel it.
Right.
So Amy and I took the painting over right before Christmas a few years ago, and she started at the top where the cross is and just felt her way down. And to see her describe that was one of the most precious moments I think I've ever had in my 6-year painting journey.
So it was special for her, but then also for the painter.
It was.
Yeah.
And I think that moment when I saw her reaction was that I need to do more churches.
Well, now let's talk about that, because that's one of the reasons that that we reached out to each other was with the Welcome Center in Wilkes County, which is a fine welcome center. And I really like the fact that it's sustainable and it's just so tight and nicely put together. But they do have exhibits, and some showings.
Right.
And as I understand from the manager, she mentioned your name to me. I think you'd already sent me an email, though.
Could be, yeah.
But it's just kind of a coincidence that I wanted to do something at the center, and we had a great talk. And you just put up the display for the churches,
right?
And she walked through and talked about all of them, and I've looked at every single one of them, and I saw all the display, and then I said, okay. And she said, oh, there's more over here, and over here, there's more. I thought, wow, there's got to be an incredible story behind how that happened. And I guess that's what we can pick up on now, because you've shared a very touching story of a painting of a church for a blind lady.
Yes.
And yet she saw it.
She saw it, yes.
And it sounds like that was special for her, but also special for you.
It was. Well, everybody saw the reports about the floods
Helene,
in September of 2024. And I saw a news story, it might have been a photograph, of a church with a river of mud and water running through it about 5 feet into the sanctuary. And I believe it was right then that I decided to paint churches that were affected by the flood, those that were directly impacted, and those that their members were affected, obviously, but all the churches that all of a sudden they picked up to the plate. They became distribution points. They housed a lot of the volunteers that came from all over the country, cooked all these meals, donation sites. I mean, it's the churches that really stood out among the devastation. And I saw that in so many of the members' eyes and how they responded. Yet so many of them lost so much, yet they came together at the church to say, what can we do to serve and help others? So it's that spirit to honor them and the churches. Some were totally destroyed. Some were destroyed to the point where they had to be torn down and rebuilt. But, Carl, all the time I've spent up there interviewing different people and pastors and church members when I've made my travels to get photographs of the churches to paint, not one person has ever blamed God. Not one. They all say how blessed they are, and that they always say it could have been worse. So there's a resiliency that is portrayed kind of sometimes behind the scenes that a lot of people will never see. But I've been so fortunate to be able to capture that in the mood of the paintings in which I'm painting these churches.
David, do you think your background, growing up the way you grew up in that nurturing Christian family environment, going to church, understanding the mindset and how it's actually manifested? I mean, people are actually doing things together. Somebody's sick, you don't have to call, hey, can I do something for you? No, you just go do it.
You just go do it.
You just go do it.
Yes.
So with that in your heart and in your psyche, and you go see these churches for the first time, and you see how they're distributing whatever needs to be distributed, and is that what helped you see and sense that even more?
It is. I think a lot of my church background came to the forefront in understanding how important the churches really are. And I've spent many, many hours with my headset listening to Christian music and old hymns while I've been painting these churches. I think I've watched and heard every one of Billy Graham's classic sermons on his crusades. But I've needed that just to really pull me into the reason I'm painting these churches. It really is a labor of love, and I'm very honored that I've been so fortunate to be able to paint as many as I have.
How many have you identified?
I've identified well over 200 that are now in the queue to be painted. Now I know there's 300 or 400 more in in this area that I've not even found yet for whatever reason. But I've got 73 on display now at the Visitor Center through April 27th. So I'll be adding more as I make my travels.
Do you imagine that? Do you imagine that from the publicity you get from this display, are you already thinking of other places that you might be able to have that display as well?
Well, you know, I never started out with this in mind. I never thought it would get attention like it has. And honestly, I've not thought that far out of the box. I guess I've kept it in the moment. The originals are not for sale. I've had no intention of selling the collection, although I've had a number of church members want to purchase reprints of their church. And so,
are you doing that?
I am doing that,
okay,
and that may take on a new direction. But I'm honored to do that because it's a keepsake for them, particularly for these churches that are totally lost now. But so that's kind of where I'm at. But yes, I hope there's other associations or companies that would like to have me display the paintings, other centers, et cetera, around the state. Just haven't found that yet, but I'm sure it's out there.
Well, that's great. I'm glad we're doing the interview now because a year from now we'll sit down again and we'll get an update.
Right.
And I don't think it'll surprise either one of us if other things haven't evolved and developed. So the first church that you painted, have you done prints of that one yet, or are they?
I have. Well, Cross North Presbyterian was one of the first churches I painted. And I was fortunate that the Reverend Kathy Campbell, the minister there, she introduced me to the church members one Sunday morning, and I had the original on display, and they're redoing their roof. And so we set up a way that they could buy a reprint, and part of the money would stay at the church to go toward the building fund. And so a lot of that, I think, is, and that's what I'm planning to do with any of the reprints that I sell, is a portion of those paintings are going to go back to that individual church. Or maybe could be the Baptist Men, Samaritan's Purse, which has a huge presence, of course, here in Wilkes County. They were obviously all over the place during the immediate relief and all that, and still are. So if we don't donate some to the churches, those are some of the entities and associations that I plan to send some of the money to, because I really don't want this as a money maker per se. That's not my intent.
Right. So if it's not for making money, and even though that may happen, a little trickle here or there, but if that's not the driving force, you've created the collection now, which is a growing collection. Then, if money's not over here, just in a few sentences, capsulize what that real purpose is, not just for the community, but for you and your wife.
Well, she's been a great support this whole time. I've spent a lot of time by myself. She's come in at different stages of the paintings, and she's been very encouraging. It is a gift. I have to admit, I do believe God gave me this talent, a gift to paint these churches. And it's to honor, I want to honor the churches, the staff, and the members. And I really believe that most communities center around the churches, that they oftentimes are the glue that keep communities together. It gives them hope. And we're living in a world that needs hope.
It always has, hasn't it?
And hope doesn't have to come at a price. It doesn't. You don't have to pay for it necessarily. You just have to believe. And so this painting journey, particularly these churches, I think that's what I'm trying to tell people is get out and serve. Be kind to others. Get involved in a church if you're not in one. And look at what the churches have done, particularly in this high country area, such an important role. And so I'm honored to have my name attached to a lot of these churches and to be a part of this. It's been a wonderful journey.
What a great story, because what you're describing now, if I compare and contrast the insurance business or other things that you've said that you've done, here you're doing something that you're using this talent that's you've discovered, that was given to you, however you describe it, and I'm sure it's evolving a bit over time. And you see how people are reacting and responding. You know, sometimes just doing something that gives people pleasure, and you said kind. I think, I think kindness should be our driving force. You know, to be good or to, do something to expect something in return, that's a different thing. But when you're kind, that's a thing that's just a gift, right?
It is, and we all have it, and we can all share it.
Yeah.
And you never know who needs it.
Well, all right. So paint's gone up, hasn't it? The price of paint. Have you been painting long enough to know? Have you seen a step up?
Yeah. I do use a higher quality professional grade, and it does cost more than it did 6 years ago.
well, and if you look 12 years ago, it's really cost a lot more. I have a lot of friends that paint, and I said, "Why is your artwork going up?" I said, "Because the paint's going up. It's doubled." So
that's right. It's not the talent; it's the material that costs.
Right. So if you look at your life now, you think probably life would be better if everybody gets a long-term care policy, just so that their kids don't go crazy on each other, and then start painting.
And buy a painting.
Oh, buy a painting.
Yeah, buy a painting. Yes.
That makes it better for everybody.
Right.
All right. Anything else you want to share, David?
Well, it's been an honor, and I appreciate you having me on. I hope your viewers will get by the Visitor Center and just see first of all, the incredible Visitor Center that Wilkes County has. I've been to every visitor center in the state. This is by far the nicest.
Yeah, I absolutely. I agree with that. And the certification they have.
Yes.
It's one of the top in the nation.
Yes.
And definitely in the South.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing. Well, no matter when people see this, they're going to be either if the exhibit is over, and people watch our shows, on down the road, a year or two down the road, they may see it. What website do they go to?
I have a personal website. It's very simple, davidhaynespaintings.com.
davidhaynespaintings.com.
That's it.
So if they go there, which I did, they can actually see your cats.
You can see the cats. That's right. Right now I have about 100 paintings on my website. I've got a few of the churches, but I'm going to put the special collection probably in the next couple of weeks as an 8th collection. Okay. But that's where they would reach out.
So they'll all be there.
Yes.
Right. David, it's great to see you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for stopping in, and we'll just keep up with each other. We'll see what you've done. And I don't know. Do you have any more cats?
We don't have any more cats, and not sure if we have any on the way. No. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I hope you get a cat or
Thank you.
something. Thanks,
Well,
David.
It's been an honor.
It's
Thank
been
you, Carl.
great.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for spending time with us on Life in Wilkes. We value you as a viewer and appreciate when you share the show with your friends and family. Be sure to bookmark our channel and join us again on the next episode of Life in Wilkes.